Okay, Tammy, it is 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. Sorry, I didn't give the camera guy notifications. So, you all set? All right. Good, all right. So previous minutes, has everybody had a chance to review those? I'm going back today.
Yeah, hang on.
I can hear myself talking, so I was confused there for a minute.
That is unusual.
It is. If everybody's had a chance to review the minutes, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I would second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Finances were covered in last night's finance and budget meeting, so
I
that's
do have an addition, Mr. Chairman.
to that part.
Yeah, just a statement from your lawyer who
Okay.
we hired as interim treasurer. I just wanted to let us all know and go on the record that even though there may have been rumors of a lot of money missing, it has been all accounted for except for about $4. So
Excellent.
right now we are very satisfied with that. I said, you're not going to spend any more time looking for $4. And she very happily said, we got it. So
Is that, as the opinion of the board, would that be reason and time for acceptance of her resignation letter, which she turned in before she realized how much that was off the first time?
Was she gonna leave that up to us, or was she gonna tell us when she was
I
done?
think she said when
She's
she
done.
got that up to, when she
She's
got,
She sent us a letter.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that
Great.
final acceptance was pending on,
Currently, she is still the only signer on the library.
There you go.
okay,
They're still waiting for the library to give them the minutes of who's supposed to be one of those people on
okay,
the checking.
okay. So we will leave her in that position until,
Hopefully, I don't,
Well, no.
What do you mean?
her,
The
her
library
resignation
needs to
is,
get-
is pending on.
yes, the library needs to get their stuff, yeah. But it should be in the minutes from this meeting, which is when? When, do you know when their January meeting is or was?
I do not know.
Okay,
So I don't know if they've had those minutes yet or not. I know that's what they've been waiting on, the checks that were written last week or whatever. Vera had to come up and sign them.
Okay. So what we're saying, Terry, is we can't accept her resignation at this point, because if we did that, she would technically not be a town employee,
Right.
and she would be the only signer of the checks. So the library needs to get that information to us so we can
Well,
get,
I'd say that we give the library a deadline
absolutely,
because we're not going to continue to have her on
yes, I agree. I mean,
when we've already got a treasurer in place and we don't have the money
Is-
to pay them.
is Maria's name also going on that?
Yeah.
That's Larry, okay. Okay. Hello? Yes, it is. Sorry, I didn't answer that very professionally. This is Josh. Okay, do you have, I'm gonna send you over to our guy that's running our computer system. He can send you a direct invite if you're on your email, I believe. Does that work, Larry?
that should be done as well.
Okay, hang on, I'll send you over to him and he'll send you an invite directly.
Which Larry?
Larry Jarvis.
Josh, did you say that the link was not working?
That's, yes.
Hi, Larry.
Well, I thought you were sending it down, sorry.
I am going to send you an
Who?
email if I can get your email address.
Okay. Well, if we send him, so, yep, we'll give him the direct
What's your
line
email
too.
address?
Can't he just type it in there and send it over?
No. he
No.
has it already.
Okay,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I misunderstood how that works. So we are setting a deadline of this month. They need to have somebody on the books, able to sign checks so that Vera can be taken off. I don't
Okay,
know.
we'd accept, I would
Um,
say we can make a motion to
spell
accept the
Jarvis for me, Larry.
resignation as of,
As when the new signer's on there.
by the next meeting.
I pretty much told them, I said, told her to
And
go
what's
to the
the,
bank, get her name off, give
just
them
at
the minutes,
jarvisfarms.com?
that Maria is the treasurer and put Brenda on.
That works too.
Then
Yep.
It's
.com.
done.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yep,
I'm not
we
gonna
can
hang
do,
up on you.
let's
okay?
do that too then. Yeah, get Maria on there. Have Vera taken off. Tammy, I'm assuming you're getting all this. Okay, that way we can accept Vera's resignation. And we can accept that, you're right, Carrie, at the next meeting. And
next regular meeting.
next regular meeting, which will be the 24th. First order of business. So, any others on the finance world or just that?
Just that one.
Okay. Kathy, what do you got for us?
Well, we all know the bill that went through the House and the Senate about this year's town meeting on the choices you can do. Did anybody read the link that Brenda sent?
No.
I don't see the link that Brenda sent.
It was in the body of the email, it was the very first thing, there was a link there.
Well, I'm not saying I didn't get it, I'm just.
All right, anyway,
Might
pretty
have
much
two
you
of the
have
hooks.
two choices. Two choices are you can do Australian ballot like you
You should
did
have that
last
on the
year
For the budget?
for the
I
budget,
mean, no, it's fine.
for this year only.
Okay.
The other choice is you can postpone town meeting, because all of our budget stuff is off the floor. You can postpone it to a later date and hopefully, everything's like hunky-dory.
Mhm.
Numbers keep going up, that's
Yep.
up to you. You gotta decide sooner rather than later.
Is that,
We would still have voting going on if you postpone it, because we do have Australian ballots, which are the officers in the school budget, so.
which has to happen that day anyway, which means if we don't go to Australian ballot on the budget, we have to have another day,
A town meeting,
another town meeting.
but
which
there's
means-
no ballot votes. It's not something that has to be done all day. There's no polls open. It's
Okay.
all on the floor.
So do we, in order to make this, and maybe Brenda has the answer, in order to do this, would we just need a motion at this meeting to go one way or the other?
I believe so. So it's a vote of the legislative body.
Okay,
Whichever you choose doesn't matter to me. We can also do a mass mailing of absentee
Yeah, that's the one,
ballots.
you can jump right on that one.
But 5 years statistics, we have less than a third of the people who
So,
ever
and
vote
in
on town meeting.
Okay.
09.
1,000 people on our checklist, we get
No,
300 if we're lucky.
yep,
Let me recheck that. I'll send it
Last
over to
year
you,
was the
okay?
only time for
They
town
were
meeting
asking me
that we
questions,
had
and I said,
138 absentee ballot people carried. Yeah, 103. The year before was only 25.
okay,
So anybody can get an absentee ballot for any reason, all they can start calling tomorrow.
yep. So,
I would not
If-
do the
if-
mass.
if everybody was able to hear Kathy, I'm not sure. Absentee ballots are available. If you call, you'll get put on a list and they can be mailed to you, just like any other year. I know what I am personally feeling, but I'll put it in a motion and we can put it to a vote. I make a motion that we move this year's budget to Australian ballot for the 2022 budget vote.
I'll second that.
So no in person.
No in person. Everything would be on the ballot. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Okay, so this year, everything's going on a ballot.
okay,
I usually vote no.
One thing that cannot go on this year's ballot, this article cannot go on, you cannot ask to go to Australian ballot for the budget this year.
for next year we can.
I don't know that next year. They don't want towns to get rid of town meetings,
Right,
and that's what happened.
so
But for
that's,
this year, it clearly states in here, this year you cannot put that question on the warning.
Oh,
so
we can't ask.
we can't ask, that's one of the questions we had that was going on the
So
ballot.
You cannot this year.
We
put it
cannot-
on here.
We cannot during this vote, correct?
Correct.
We could have a separate ballot in November that would ask that for the following
You would
March.
actually have to probably contact the Secretary of State's office on that, or because someone did it this past November, apparently, that's not what the legislature did this for.
Well, we all know why they do things,
So, but you got time to worry about that.
okay.
Secondly, are we gonna have a 30-question ballot again this year, or are we gonna condense?
My, again,
Well, are we still
personal,
gonna do town meeting day?
there would be no town meeting. Everything would be Australian ballot. So what she's asking now is, are we going to itemize
I thought just
everything?
the budget would be Australian ballot.
It is, but what else do we vote off from the floor?
Don't we do like your dog catcher, all that?
Town
and put
offices,
all of that
We
on the
did
ballot?
last year.
just like we did last year. Joe, yeah.
It'd just be write-ins if nobody runs. Yep. That's why last year's counting during town meeting took,
Because we then had all those positions
that were unfilled,
Nobody.
or you
nobody
had less
filled
than
out
the
a
right
position.
number of votes.
Well, I know there's one that you don't have to do anymore, town agent. It was
Excellent,
repealed a few years ago. We
Excellent.
had to ask for it.
okay. Yes, so there would be no town meeting to go over all that stuff. The question that's being posed now is, do we have every single line item?
Like we did
Like,
last year.
well, like what we've been going over the past two budget meetings, is every one of those out there? Or do we have it as one lump sum and two informational budget meetings beforehand, correct? There has to be two.
No, there only needs to be one.
There only needs to be one, okay. Which could be Zoom, or if we need, we could probably talk to the school and see if we could hold it there, since,
I would do it over Zoom, otherwise you might as well have your town meeting.
It was the same- it was the
A
same
group of
argument.
people is what they're trying to get rid of.
Right.
Unless you want to do it a later date.
so do we want to go to one item for the budget, which would have the lump sum, the general and the road together? Or do you want to itemize everything out and you vote yay or nay on every item, just like we would at town meeting day?
Everybody has the option to read the town report. All that information is broken down in detail in the town report.
Right, and I'm not saying we
The
wouldn't give them.
totals are,
Some of them
in
I think
plain,
should be.
the
broken
totals
away.
are plain.
Mhm.
I think that we should condense this as much as possible.
So you're not saying all one, but condense some of it. Terry, I think is saying the same thing, not all in one, but definitely could be condensed.
I
You
mean,
need to
Yes,
condense
I
it,
think
yeah.
those,
this is more food for thought. It doesn't have, that part doesn't have to be decided today, because I know
Okay.
we got things
Yep.
going. It's just, because I gave you all the other towns around what their budgets is. It's like a big number and it's all broken down.
Below, yep.
It's, this is all for the general, this is all for the road, this is for the library. It's like what the school does.
I think that stuff is fine to have as one, but I think when you get to the Humane Society, all those little
Oh, no,
entities
some of
that
those
ask,
towns actually break those down. That's a separate question.
that's what I'm saying. Those are the things
Yeah.
I would want voted separately, not in our general.
Because last year we had it was like one article, but it was yes or no or.
Right.
That's the discussion we would need to
So
have.
for instance, last year we had 11 separate
Yeah,
votes under that item.
which is
This is the,
hired treasurer verbiage.
yeah, that would be the
Okay.
article.
Do you have any Are there others?
I don't think so at this point.
Okay.
I wanna know when you're working on the morning. The last possible day for that to be posted is the 30th. It's a Sunday. I'm not coming up to make sure it's signed and posted on Sunday. Would like it by that Thursday, what,
28th.
27th?
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
We're hoping to have everything,
January.
January.
we're hoping to have everything nailed down. We have
has
a,
to be
we have a,
posted 30 days and town meeting's on the 1st of March.
we have a budget meeting on the 19th. And then our regular meeting, which we hope to have everything nailed down, ready to go on the 24th.
Like ready to go to be signed?
Ready to go to you. I
That
believe
is our hope.
That is our hope.
Already signed or already typed up?
Type. But then,
I'll have to touch base with Tammy on that one. It'll really depend on what happens the 19th.
Do
If
you
we
want
get
me
through,
to come in on the 19th if you're gonna be discussing that?
if that would be helpful.
Yes.
If you have the time, yes.
That's.
worst case scenario, if everything's not nailed down the 24th, we've already established that we have to have another meeting after that. If we didn't reach that budget, just to come in and to sign. Yep,
We've had to do that.
yep, yep. So,
All right, I am done then,
all right.
unless you have any questions.
I don't believe so. I think we are all set. Tammy, do you have the manila folder with the ambulance contracts? Sorry, I didn't grab that. If we wanna,
I've got the numbers here.
yeah, I know, I just,
I got this spreadsheet here.
did you take it out of the thing or did you make a copy?
No, it's one Larry gave us. from the thing.
Oh, okay, okay.
So people who run for office that we always do Australian ballot for are doing petition. But these that we're doing off the floor, you want me to have Tammy call them on Thursday and just have them, if they want to run to fill out a consent to be on the ballot form.
That would be helpful.
If we have a
Yes,
meeting,
this
if
one I
we
believe.
won't have to
Yeah.
write in.
That would be, yes. I think that would streamline everything.
Now, all positions for the officers position, all but one I know for is being fulfilled,
Excellent.
assuming they'll fill this out.
Anybody wants to sign it?
But Carrie is.
Oh,
running
oh.
it. I thought that's what her email said. That she wasn't gonna run. Well, it was a
45.
everybody
52.
responds to
It's not
everybody,
45.
but just you, so I got it.
Are the school board
45
positions
per
on
person,
that ballot as well?
If their total was
Petitions are on
57,
the school
285.
ballot, which they do at central office. It's everybody. We vote for all the other town school boards too.
But it'll be on this, it won't be on this ballot, there'll be a separate school meeting with,
There's a separate school ballot. You'll be voting on that on town meeting day.
okay, that's what I mean.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Is Larry still with us? He is, he's there. Can we unmute Larry and, you can unmute him for me?
There you go.
Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you good, Larry.
I apologize. I'm actually just tested positive. I'm a little bit of a sore throat, so if you have trouble hearing me, sorry.
It's going around.
Yeah. I'm glad I got vaccinated, that's for sure.
Worked real well.
So as you know, as we told you when you were here for your meeting, we reached out to some other companies and got some bids from them to match up with yours. And just going through them, we're looking to well, see what you can do for us. There's a couple things we think we might want or need. Is there a possibility that you would be willing to to do a 5-year contract instead of 3?
Sure, we could probably look into that and entertain that part, but the reason we did the 3 years because the utilization of the ARPA funds only goes out for 3 years. So beyond that, the difference would be all on the taxpayers, and we're not for sure, what the per capita may be at that point. If we went out 5 years, we would have to guesstimate that it's going to go up rather than down. So I guess that's the only objection I think our board would have. I tried to meet with them last night there, but it wasn't warm properly and we had to cancel the meeting. So I haven't been able to get in touch with my board members at all about this situation.
Okay. The other thing that we were wondering is, would a 2% increase instead of a 3% increase over the term be doable?
We're trying to maintain the same per capita and increase throughout all the towns for this to work. That's the number we came up with. And if we're going to change those numbers, the increase will have to go up. But again, this whole increase can be covered through the ARPA funds for 3 years.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that the taxpayers are, some of the things I've heard personally, not the opinion of the board, but things I've heard personally is that the ARPA funds is not necessarily the way that money could be used in a better way.
Well, it is true to a sense, but it's also not, because it's all pandemic related. And if it was all just Enosburg, we could utilize that. The loss that we had is, the loss wasn't so much from last year, it was from 2 years ago when it first happened. There was a huge decrease and it's carried over for 2 years. But it's operated as, so much percent out of every town. So you can't, the difference to be made up can't be made out of just one budgetary town. It's still up to each town to use those funds, whichever way they utilize it. So yeah, that's for sure. But
now is Enosburg using their ARPA funds to cover the I think his words the other day were mismanagement of funds, of budget,
Of the
ambulance's budget? Is Enosburg using their ARPA funds to cover that money?
the mismanagement, that's a good word. What was that at the meeting, or is that?
Yeah, that was the words that your head guy there used.
Yeah, so yeah, there's definitely, you want to call it mismanagement, but it's definitely pandemic related, a lot of the stuff. We're looking, we want to do that. I can't give you 100% answer because we're 2 municipalities in Enosburg, and we have to ask the trustees for their share of the ARPA funds for our taxpayers. But yes, we'd like to do that, but I can't answer for the village got a percentage of ARPA funds and the town did.
Right.
But we want to cover 100% of the people, so it has to come from both of the ARPA funds. So we have to solicit the trustees to get that portion. I just asked our town clerk to forward a letter to the trustees to let them be aware of this is going on, because yes, we want to be able to access those funds for that.
So you haven't actually approached the trustees of the village yet then?
For Enosburg, no, we have not.
Okay. Kind of feel like that's where that should have started, but
I thought he said that you guys had been running in the red for like the last 5 years.
He said that?
yeah.
That's what Andrew Dunsmore, when he was at the meeting here, he said that you guys have been running in the red for about 5 years, which
We've got
pandemic.
we had a loan a few years ago from the general fund. I think it was 3 years ago. And probably from there forward, that fund hasn't been paid off. And there's been some legal issues like you'll have on different things there, but it's not a profit, huge profit, and that kind of reflects to, if you went back, I do have a spreadsheet that BJ heard. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay. And yeah, if you go back to like 2014, you guys are paying on your per capita is $40,000. In 2013 it was 37,000, and back in 2017, when the 5-year contract was done, that's when it was lowered, and that shouldn't have happened at that point. That's basically been running on a contract for 5 years that it's slowly been chipping away. He tried to maintain it as much as possible, but last year really inflated it there with not last year, 2 years ago, 2020, with an inability of the ambulance to operate very well at the March, April, May junction of the year. And then also having to pay employees more to try to retain employees. I guess that's an ongoing thing, because I'm hearing now that private companies inflating their getting huge pay increase to all their people, and we're digging from the same pot of people to run these ambulances throughout the county. So that's the reality of it, is we can't keep going down at this point. We need to get up to maintain. And there was a huge amount of overtime paid. I was looking over the numbers the other day for this past year, and so if you could get some of those pool of people to $1 or $2 more increase, maybe you can curb some of that overtime down and so try to tamper some of the expenses.
So I guess, I mean, we're still kind of at the negotiation standpoint here. I think what we're looking at is we'd like for you to take back to the ambulance crew is a 5-year contract. And we'd really like to see 2 max out at 2.5% increase over the 5 years. So if we got another meeting with a number ambulance crew tonight, and we'll if you can work on that and get back to us, and that's kind of what we're looking at right now. It's what we'd like to see.
Okay. Yeah, just on a side note too, I have to take my select board hat off now too. I am a resident of Bakersfield, and I do want to make sure that the ARPA funds do get utilized the proper way. I just hate to find out that they didn't get utilized, and when there's a good chunk of change that we don't have to rely on the taxpayers to raise. But I'll take that back to them. We'll have to, we have to do our due diligence and put this across the board for all the contracting towns, and see what the bottom line will look like going forward. I don't think there's an issue with going out 5 years. The rate increase, percentage increase, we'll have to pencil that out.
Yeah, I think that's where we are. If you get that information and let us know.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks.
And I didn't hear the whole thing. Heard part of it before I was getting in there. Are you guys doing an in-town town meeting day?
We have decided to go budget on Australian ballot.
Okay. Yes, that was part of our discussion last night, that got our newspaper man picked that up, and we kind of had to stop the meeting, and so we couldn't talk about it. But yeah, that was part of our discussion, and I think that's the route that we're probably taking for Enosburg as well.
Yeah, it seemed to work pretty good last year. Well,
Just have information meeting ahead of time, and
yep. Yep,
It was-
everything
Okay.
is, so,
Okay, appreciate your time.
thank you,
All right,
Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too, Larry.
Alright.
One thing I would just ask is if the select board it was on to state, because my understanding is ARPA funds from Bakersfield not be used in a contract with you.
Okay.
And that came from the state representative, but I would ask you to just confirm that.
Yep.
Because I hate to see us get in trouble. We're here to support going Ginsburg. I think the contract you just mentioned can't work well. But I think we need to look closely at that. And then the other question I would ask, I'm not coming up using the backup funds to pay the overtime expenses. That's what they just want.
And that's kind of what I was asking with, and the fact that they haven't gone to their own town to ask about their ARPA funds yet, that kind of makes me think, let's grab up all the outside money first, and then we'll figure out what to do with ours. And that doesn't sit well with me as a resident of Bakersfield. So I think, like I said, we've got another entity to call here on ambulance services. They're not quite where we need them to be either, but I don't know.
Okay, my questions would be, and I know it should be one of them. The first one would be, we utilize the ambulance service, we're paying more than we had before, and obviously at one point the decrease was a little substantial.
No, actually, we went
percent-
backwards.
Well, my question was, how many trips did Bakerfield's residents, or how many times do we have to use them as residents of Bakersfield?
50.
50 calls in a year? And then how many of
Yeah,
those
that
calls
one,
were COVID related? Because apparently they're relating this back to COVID. So,
I don't think any,
you know, if the increase is just
we had
50,
45 calls in 2020 is what he said on here.
Yeah. And from 2013 to 2016, we were paying 37,000 a year. Then in 2017, we dropped down to 31. And that's when they started their 3-year contract at their percentage, which brings us to the present of 32,000.
Ginsburg Ambulance Service went through some sort of reconstruction at that period, is that correct? Yeah.
But I mean, they dropped. Yeah.
Going back to the comment on this, it's just understanding their budget is hard to follow. And where you have a budget amount, you have your monthly expense, it doesn't show what a delta is, in other words, how much do I got left?
Yep.
On that line, you won't see that. So it's kind of hard for the manager, the director of the service, to actually follow that.
Yeah, well, in that, there was some key words that were said in that first meeting that were, obviously Terry picked up on them also, but it was like, when it comes time to talk about this stuff, you're basically put down the shovel butt type of deal. You know, he was digging a pretty good hole all by himself. So hopefully that will,
Pretty much. To me, it sounded like we've been running in the red. And now everybody's been giving us ARPA money. That should help us get back where we need to be.
yeah, we
to
should
then
take
start
your
fresh.
exactly. Yeah,
And
that was how I understood it
the
also.
money's not for Ginsburg, it's for Bakersfield. And I think and for them, I just think it's ridiculous to ask for that kind of increase and not even warn people.
Yeah.
Like they they obviously knew this months ago that they were having some financial issues and they said nothing to anybody.
And I think the key on that is timing. They know, Larry knows this is when you're building your budget. And if you don't have enough time to shop around, then
Their budget runs January to December.
theirs runs the same as ours then. Okay, so we're both screwed up. When do their taxes are due in July? Is that twice a year? That's- yeah. Yeah. After Bakersfield, okay. Bill?
Yeah, thanks. Bill Irwin, resident of Bakersfield, and member of Bakersfield Fire and Rescue, one of the EMTs in town. And I'm just trying to make sure that if the select board was actually going to change the contract to somebody else, that you tell the townspeople that you're gonna do that. Because that is a substantial change. The distance and time between Cambridge, Enosburg, St. Albans, Newport, and the other ambulance services, and those are pretty much the only ones available to us, is significant, and it could be a matter of life or death.
We absolutely agree with you,
So,
yes.
Really would
We
hate
did
to
look
see
into all
a
those.
decision made without the townspeople understanding why that decision was made.
Yep, when we asked for, we have Missisquoi, Cambridge, and Amcare here along with Enosburg. Those were the local ones that were recommended we look into. Those were all things that we took into account, you know. We understand because any one of us is just as likely to go down as any other, you know, resident. And we want speedy, quality service, you know. Absolutely, we wouldn't think about changing without, you know, taxpayer input for sure.
Glad to hear that. Thank you, sir.
Paul?
Paul Stanley, president of Bakersfield, same as Bill. And to add to that, it's not just the citizens, it's our first response crew and fire department. We are used to working with Enosburg Ambulance Service.
Yep.
If there is a change in our transports companies, we're going to, like Bill is saying, the residents are going to have to be aware, but we're going to have to get used to a whole nother set of people. And the other thing I think the board needs to consider, going beyond the monetary piece of this, is you got one here. There's three
Yep.
residents here in Bakersfield that are employed by Enosburg Ambulance Service.
They have that on their.
Yep.
So.
Paul, we completely agree with you. At no point, I mean, we took all this into consideration. The only analogy that comes to mind right now is, I'm not going to the car dealership and paying sticker price.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's what you told us.
Right.
Look at.
Yep,
But this stuff needs to come into consideration also.
absolutely. Yep. Yes, I'm speaking for myself, I agree 100%. I think, at this point, I think we could call,
It's not that we don't want to work with Enosburg.
exactly,
The biggest thing that made me go, no, was the fact that right off the bat, their biggest thing is, you've got money from ARPA, and we want you to give that to us to help us, because we've been in this hole.
And they haven't even asked their own town or village for the same funds.
so.
So
It's,
it makes you feel like this increase did not come just because they've got pandemic here. I would like to know how many of their calls have been, like, they added equipment that I'm not sure they really needed to add because of the,
well, there's a person
COVID.
sitting right here that could probably tell you if it was needed equipment or not.
well, they don't list
They don't list it.
exactly what
Some of
they
the equipment,
purchased.
the N95, the face mask.
Yeah, the mask, yep.
Cleaning wipes, the sprayer.
Yeah.
They have to spray the ambulance with it. We take
After
it
every use, yeah.
after a call. There was some specialty equipment.
And they didn't get any state funding for any of that because these small businesses around here got tons of money for that.
I think that's, I
Yeah.
think you just answered that question right there. Is they were small businesses where this is a town-owned entity.
I'll guarantee you there was state funding
They're-
for most of that.
Yeah, state's
equipment.
throwing
There
money
was-
at everything, but it's coming out of our pockets either way. They haven't. And I think the other equipment that they said that they added was the infant transport.
Yes.
That-
well, it was just, basically, it allows us to strap an infant down to the stretcher and do it safe. It's like a car seat.
Okay.
Only it's not a car seat, it's just a molded piece of plastic that allows them to hook them in safely. It's required by the state and federal requirements.
Okay.
So they bought it, they bought one of those.
John, can I have you call
But again,
Nathan
not
and see if you can
pandemic
get him lined up with the, before we get Nathan on here, does anybody have any suggestions on what we would like to talk Cambridge to?
Well,
I mean-
Cambridge started out with a budget of $57,285.
Right, so I mean,
They've got to come a long ways.
and I mean, do we tell them right up front,
I think
look, you've
that's,
gotta come down 20,000
I
for you
think
to
that's
be in
the
our
sh-
wheelhouse?
unless we
Well,
want
let's
to
see
spend the
what
whole
he-
evening here
what he
discussing it,
wants
yeah.
to say to us.
Okay,
But
Alright.
one of the questions I do want to ask him is,
what do they
how
have better than
often, how often is someone else covering their calls?
I see you've been talking with Terry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I want to know
Yeah.
if that's a true statement or,
I wouldn't doubt it.
because I'm surprised
Yes,
in that because they seem to have a pretty active,
they have a lot more people though.
yeah, that's what I mean. They have a lot more people on their ambulance too.
Yeah.
But it's a moot point. Even if they have people that fill in for them or answer the calls for them, if they can't come down $20,000, we're not going to consider them anyhow.
No, I know. They want to
Please,
talk to us.
all of you,
Ask us to talk to
please
them.
listen in to what he has to say, because one of the questions I'm going to ask is, what are the services that you offer above and beyond what Enosburg can offer? And I don't have that knowledge set, you guys do. So if Todd, he says, we can do this, I'm gonna look at you, and if you're shaking your head, no. You're my professional opinion at this point, that's,
Don't be afraid to call BS when you see it.
yeah. I don't have any clue. This is not anywhere near, if he was talking trees, I'd be like, all right, we can talk, but you know, there's a bunch of us here in that boat, we'd be all right there.
Is he on?
Not yet, John is out there, on the phone with him, getting him the login information, so same thing he had to do with Larry. We do,
No Carolyn Browns, did she cancel?
I haven't seen, right there, Pat's
Oh,
here to
you're
fill in.
Carolyn? Oh, you look cute, Carolyn. Well, let's move on to him then.
We can do that while we're waiting, yep, absolutely. Yep. Come on, right up here, Pat, there's a nice speaker here for you.
Yeah.
Yep, or microphone, sorry.
Or microphone, yeah.
Oh.
You're sitting.
Good evening, I'm Pat Evans. I'm the chairman of the Bakersfield Conservation Commission. And we'd like to meet the select board once in a while, spend about a quarter. We have 3 items we wanted to bring up to your attention. One of which is, almost 2 of which is, we had a tradition of planning winter events in the conservation line. We put on, baked cookies have an unusual film about conservation. You wouldn't have to see in ordinary media, whether it was whales or that sort of thing, families could come to. We had tried, they were pretty modest, we tried some snowshoeing events around the tree plantations and they were likely to attend, but we want to keep in that business now too. And we were asking, since we've got this nice new property head into town, if we could have your permission to plan a snowshoeing event in town at the gravel pit land. This would be in the end of February during vacation.
Okay.
2 things actually, we'd like to plan something like that. We don't get many people. We would also like to get permission before we do something like that, to take a look at it ourselves to see what the safe place to be would be, maybe not that trail.
I don't foresee any problem with that. I enjoy hiking through there myself in November. Matt would be able to give you a good location.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure, there's a lot of fields up there that could be used. There's also it's a fairly narrow strip of wood line there also that could be used. But I don't foresee there being any issue with it. Does anybody else on the board see any issue?
Liability issue in the
That's
mine,
The only thing I would ask.
in the
too.
mined area itself.
So we would be talking in the green portions only, staying out of,
Well, we would have anticipated that, yeah. No.
There's a road through it. I don't see a problem using that, but we can't have people
No,
trying to go up and down the mined areas.
yeah, well, we had planned on doing that. Yeah. we can keep it away. Yeah.
Okay, all right, I can hear you now.
So you usually do it over here?
Well, we've done the tree.
Nathan will be right with you.
I have
We're finishing up with the Bakersfield Conservation Committee. So
Larry,
All right.
Put 'em on the
what's,
other thing.
sort of thing, have a hot chocolate afterwards, sort of thing.
Mhm.
all right.
Open to the public.
And the other thing that you'd,
Okay, well, two other things, one of which is that very same property. Beautiful as it is, we would like to pursue investigating, we'd like it with your blessing, considering it a potential town forest, not the gravel part. We don't want anything to do with the, as you go, the mining area, or its eventual expansion of parts of it, but the rest of it is a town forest. I think.
what is our setback from the field? I don't believe it's 100 yards. And it's, the permit won't? Okay,
Yeah, so that kind of needs some investigation.
Yeah.
We'd have to
Don't
review,
think
we'd
we
have to
can
review the
answer that
250,
tonight.
the Act 250 permit itself.
Yeah,
There,
well, right now, it seems, if we looked at it, it just seems to be for the mining of the gravel pit, but yeah, there'd have to be probably that. So, not that I know the business. We've been thinking about town forest for a long time. If it wouldn't cost anything, we would be investigating, of course, probably try to get some support, see if the town would be interested in that sort of thing. But also, what the uses would be for it. We would have the help of the Franklin County Forester, Nancy Patch, to do the woodlot management, those sorts of things that we have to investigate. We'd also have to investigate, do we have to put a road in, for instance? We're not going to go anywhere near the gravel pit, but we have to have some other access.
do we,
I think,
how many acres of wooded property are actually there?
I don't know, I know the whole thing's 104 acres, so.
Okay,
If I'm looking at a picture of it, it must be about 50-50, or maybe 60-40,
Okay.
40.
I think that encompasses everything back out to Egypt Road, correct?
yeah.
I would think you're probably looking at, God, I would say you'd be hard pressed to get 20 acres of woods there. It's a pretty narrow strip, really. From the fields up over that ridge, there's not much,
Well,
and it's not, it's steep, it's mountain goat country.
yeah, well, in town forest, would be good for anything else, no way. In any case, we're just asking to look into it.
Mhm.
Come back to you, see what we find out. See, when we talk to Nancy, we talk to some other people and say, if we have a town forest, and we've been thinking about it for a long time, this were the potential site, what do we need to do? And come back at a much later date, probably.
Okay.
But only with your blessing. If you don't want us to go near the place, that's your business, of course. But,
First things first, we'd have to review the Act 250 permit to see if it's even
yeah.
feasible. There was some specific verbiage about the use of the property in that permit.
well, if you make application for a permit and you decide for another use, can it not be amended?
Not easily. They're pretty strict on that mining permit.
You couldn't section out the mining part and say, we got permission.
We can't subdivide that, no, not easily. Part of it, for instance, was specifically set up and reserved for a deer bedding area.
All that, yeah.
Mhm. And whether or not the permit will allow hiking through there, I don't, I'd have to read it back, honestly. I've read it once, but it was years ago.
Yeah, we've been looking
Uh,
that was fine for some, looking for maps.
Yep.
And
So it needs research on both ends, ours and yours.
I mean, the wetlands, as long as you're not taking vehicles through that, but we can't even,
are there wetlands in part of the, we're talking about the southern end of the whole property.
there are specified wetlands.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, okay.
Yep.
There's some sedges
Yes, you have no.
that are
objection.
protected in there.
Yeah.
I'm serious. There are some sedges in there on the southern edge that are protected. We can't do a darn thing in that area.
Is it because it's not endangered, but some kind of.
It's
It's
a
a
protected,
wetland.
it's a protected grass sedge.
Okay.
There are some other things in there that I, for the life of me, I can't remember right now. I'd have to review it again.
Well, would you have any objection to us planning, looking at, thinking about it?
No.
Okay, and we'd like your input, of course, obviously, you'll have something to say about it, for sure, and then not, that's all, we just like to look at it a little further,
I just
see what it would take.
can't in clear conscience say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I can't do that.
Well, I take that as an affirmative, I'll move on to the last one, because you guys have stuff to take care of, stuff to take down. The third thing is apart from that, and that's the barn over here. Now, we're not asking you to do anything except give us advice. The barn sits on the town, we call the town park, next to the cemetery park. And, I think we had some money put into it to stabilize it, but what do we do with it is a question. What do you think? Now, right now, we submitted a paper to describing, I think Tammy had, did you ever get a copy of that? Didn't pass on, okay, well, those two items, among our, members, we sort of said, well, the Vermont Land Preservation said, no, it's nothing, it doesn't work. Well, that's not true. When you look at the documents from the Vermont, whatever it is, conservation,
Historical preservation.
no,
Tract.
actually, this is from the original, easement, Vermont Housing Conservation Board. And they noted that the buildings are, they felt eligible, the barn is eligible for National Historic Places in Vermont. It isn't there yet, but it is an old building, you all know it. There have been a couple of controversial ideas about it. One of which says it was built in the 1890s, but when you look at some of the construction, you got to kind of wonder because I'm getting rambling now, this is not fact, but I remember there was a big article in Messenger maybe 20 years ago about training Civil War troops. And there was a barn that they referred to at the town, right about the park was there. I'm wondering if that's it. People looked at the boards and said they're not milled. It's all tenon, like barn construction.
Mm.
Anyway, so, but you got any ideas what we can do about it? We can't get a grant from the land preservation people because it's not agricultural, it's not agricultural, it's not. They turned it down, but that's where the confusion in our mind was, and we thought, well, the barn has no value. Well, that's not what they said. What they said was, we can't value this property, because we only value agricultural, preservation.
Correct me if I was wrong, but that all three of those buildings originally were together and utilized for the same thing. The Hearst House and the other two buildings were to store the carriage and to house the horses.
I don't think so, right now, no.
Yeah,
But the property line is right there before the Hearst house. It's like a separate property. This we got as part of the old beautiful house that had been there one time.
The old Bachman estate.
The
Yeah,
Bachman's
Bachman.
house,
Yeah. The picture of that place was fantastic back 100 years ago.
was it?
So what was that?
That owned that barn?
What was that when it originally? Was that a place for students to live when the Brigham was there, or the Bachman estate, or was that,
No, it was a doctor's office.
it was a doctor's office?
Doctor, Abenaki?
Yeah,
Is that what- Yeah,
Okay.
I have a picture.
I'm just trying to think of what it could have been used for. You know, I mean, we have the old stage house way down and a couple other houses throughout town that we know were used for hotels or other things in the
But the barn, my house had a barn that burned down this one. The garage needs enough, and I heard this somewhere, and you can shoot it if you want to, but I heard that was the place to store a standing steamer years ago. First, the only standing steamer, I guess, so in Bakersfield. Anyway. But I thought those buildings were connected to the house. They were so, but, you know, he owned the building. Okay, who knows before that?
Who, yeah, those buildings are older.
I think so.
I wonder if the
Well,
property line got changed when the,
Yeah, who knows where the property line originally was? My grandfather told me that those all went with the Hearst house.
Okay, well.
But I
and they may
have no
they may
proof
have-
of that, just other than my grandfather's story.
are both properties now owned by the town?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's parked his truck in there.
If you got any ideas, let us know. You think that there's something we're missing here about what?
The,
to do with
the
it?
garage open one, could you put, you know, dress it up and put a picnic table in there for rainy days?
That's a thought.
What about
Couple
tree
picnic
stand?
tables.
No, I can give a thought of that.
Stand.
Then you gotta run electricity
And
and
there you go, right there, you make some money. for all
I'm sure
those
that's already been
projects.
thought of.
The
Put a
creamy
couple,
stand?
no, put a couple picnic
I
tables
don't
in.
know. I'm sorry. I'll take that.
Now we're talking.
One
There
final
we
thing I
go.
forgot to mention, I want to start with first, thank you very much. Matthew is true for taking care of the tree on the trail. We got, you see it done. Thank you.
Nice. Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, Thank you.
All right.
Think about uses for the barn.
Get a barrel of mead and some old trestle tables and serve it the old way.
I know.
It'd be fine. All right, so we can, Nathan is ready to go.
Okay.
All right. Hey Nathan, how's it going?
It's going very well. Yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. It was brought to my attention today that you'd like to justify or explain your services and your bid proposal here.
Absolutely. So let me start by basically introducing myself a little bit more, so that way you have an understanding of basically my background and also who I am. So my name is Nathan. So very nice to meet you. So I am currently a full-time firefighter paramedic for the town of Williston. So I run the Cambridge Rescue Squad organization. So we are a breakdown of a career department on top of a volunteer department. So we do have both. My previous background is I was the chief of basically Morristown EMS for them. So the reason how I came into, I guess it's Morristown, is they were looking at shutting down their agency, reaching out to basically a for-profit agency, so forth. And then they decided to give it one last chance, and I was the person that they picked. So I was able to go into Morristown, actually bring up their service, make a well-known department throughout the state, and so forth. I was able to come through, provide the care for what the town was actually looking for, advanced life support, brought that service into a paramedic level care service. And also too, we were able to sustain that without having to function with having transfers to actually sustain our appropriations from the town. I've been doing this for 21 years. I started off down in Dallas. I was a Dallas firefighter paramedic and then actually transitioned up here. Like I said, too, I currently work for the town of Williston. I was reached out to there by basically the previous chief to go in there and to start up their community-based actual program there for the paramedics. So that's what my background kind of falls into and so forth. For what I think Bakersfield should maybe kind of start looking at. So as you saw within my proposal, so I'm not gonna bash Enosburg. I'm not gonna bash, I guess, Sam Care and stuff like that. I think they're both phenomenal services, and I guess it's their own way. You know, they have fantastic providers, fantastic people. As well. I think the thing that we offer better is basically our level of care on top of the protocols that we function off of. So we more provide advanced life support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We tried to keep that at basically the paramedic level. So that way the residents are getting the top level certification as possible. The bid is what you did see was higher, so and so forth, but also though too, I'm here to actually discuss that with you, to kind of really go over that, and to break down how come the bid is higher and what your cost is. So, but before we go any further, I guess for my understanding, or something that's very important to me, is what is the town of Bakersfield looking for? You know, so like I know a lot of towns and stuff like that. The biggest thing is like, hey, when somebody picks up the phone and calls 911, they want the ambulance service that they're contracting with to show up at their door, right? So, but the main part is though too, is what a lot of people do not actually realize is what they're getting with that. You know, so what kind of protocols are they falling under? What level of care are you getting 24 hours a day? And what are the capabilities offered? You know, so we function underneath District 4, so which is a whole different district. So our protocols are pretty much, you know, they are a very advanced protocol. So we can do, you know, we do a lot more than what basically District 1 does. So we can offer that actual higher level of care, stuff where we function more, you know, not off of having to deal with, I guess it's physicians, as much as where we function off of our providers. I think, you know, for the town, for what y'all have for too, for what it shows within basically transports and stuff like that, you know, that's a big thing. Bakersfield, from the report that I guess Tammy gave me, was roughly averaging about, you know, we were looking at 50 calls a year. So and stuff, you know, it's basically dependent on whether it's a BLS rate compared to, I guess it's ALS rates. You know, like, I don't know if that's ever been explained to you to understand the billables and so forth, you know, but I definitely think for your town, it's important for you to actually understand that and to get those reports. So that way you're aware to understand fully how like basically an ambulance service works, you know, and so forth, to understand, okay, so we survive off of what the appropriation is on top of the billing income, you know. When an agency as ourselves has to pick up another town, so we also have to increase additional staffing. The thing is, for me, is I don't want to increase my additional staffing without it being a person who is at the paramedic level. So I just don't want to hire a low level certification to be able to keep the pricing down as much. You know, the cost per resident. So the cost that I currently charge Cambridge, that we charge for that. So we operate specifically out of Cambridge, right? And so they are what I like to call are like basically our hub. So we work very closely with the town and stuff like that. They help us purchase ambulances and so forth. We do it all throughout them. So before I gave y'all a proposal, I went to them to make sure everything was good and to make sure that they were okay with it as well, just because I think that respect line is there. They are very good with it. You know, they would like to see us take on Bakersfield as well. You know, that too. And it's not for the fact that it helps them out with any part of their tax base. It's just the fact is they know what kind of care we can give you. So, you know, the cost effective for what I sent y'all was $45 a resident, you know, within your census. You know, if, you know, it seems to be you're pretty much your state average is going to be about a $40 to $45 an average. Some ambulance services come in lower at that. My biggest concern is with that is how are they sustaining that when is that being sustained more off of transfers, leaving the town vacant to rely on mutual aid. So that is one of our biggest goals that we do not do. So our 911 truck is a primary 911 truck, and that is specifically what it focuses on. It doesn't focus on leaving the area to turn around and take transfers. So whereas we specifically focus 911 based, we are the only agency and between District 1 and District 4 that offers telemedicine hand-heavy method. So where we work primarily, like we specialize in our pediatric population for our patients. So we have the most advanced base technology and so forth, and also most advanced care provided. So a lot of the other services outside of here, they do not offer that. So we were lucky that we were awarded this underneath a grant to be able to actually do this. All of our department is trained on it and is very active with it, and it's a phenomenal program as well. So that's another capability that we could bring in basically to Bakersfield with that. You know, the one thing that I did bring up though too is, you know, if you Google map anything between Cambridge or like I guess it's Enosburg into Bakersfield, there is no easy way. You know, so like basically the distances are there, whether it's Enosburg or whether it's us. You know, like I said, our crews are at the station as well though too, so our response times are a little bit faster. And so really, you know, I know the cost is a little bit more expensive and I know it's hard for voters to actually look at it. But really, if you compare it apples to apples for what you're paying for a service, you're getting a higher level capability. So Enosburg is a paramedic level service, but also though too, just because they hold that title doesn't mean that they are functioning at the same protocol level as what basically we are. So we do transport the Northwest, we transport the UVM almost every shift to ourselves. So those areas there, they're not any different for us. You know, pricing and stuff like that. I spoke with my board about it this evening before this meeting, though, and stuff too, and we're willing to work with basically numbers and stuff like that too, depending on how your select board feels and so forth with that. You know, like on my end of stuff within my personal feelings, you know, I'm not here to take over anybody's area. And like I said, if you choose, I guess it's Enosburg, absolutely. They're a fantastic service, you know, but my feelings of it with us is you would be extremely happier with us. You wouldn't have to worry about your residents nearly, and you wouldn't have those complaints when it came to patient care.
So a couple of our questions, you touched on a couple of them already. I think the first one, you know, just to continue communication is you're $20,000 higher than our comparable, you know, services. I mean, you said you talked with your board. What is your bottom dollar? I mean, because when you put it in front of the taxpayers, you know, that's the question, you know? Right.
Yep. So very much for us, our bottom dollar that we could do would have to be 48,000. So like basically that's a 10 grand change in do what we could do. And that's just because we base it off of what's expected at the 50 calls a year. Mm-hmm. So, you know, with the 50 calls a year, we can transition that. And that typically is enough for me to be able to kind of break even with a staff member. Okay. You know, so like, you know, every agency, we have to sustain our income some way, you know, so that's where for me, you know, it's hard to calculate, honestly, to be able to turn around to give you a bid that was $20,000 lower to wonder how I'm going to keep my doors open. Mm-hmm. So without it being stressful to have to worry, you know, so my biggest concern is to make sure that I have paid staff on 24 hours a day. So that way we limit that confusion.
Okay. And
you know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Just curious. Sorry, Terry, what was that?
How many years is that for?
What would be your expected annual increase?
So annual increases each year, we typically do full increases to turn around and pay our staff actual raises. Like I said, we function more out of Cambridge. So with our trucks and everything that we purchase out of is more the responsibility of Cambridge. So what we try to do is we try not to sustain a large amount of profit, right? We just try to sustain enough to make sure that we keep our doors actually operating with a reserve. So we try to always keep our reserve within our bank account. And then this is where I'm showing you how exactly open we are. right? Right. So like we tried to keep an operating reserve of $35,000 to $40,000.
Okay.
So that way there we have the safety net. We try not to have to pull funds out of anywhere else. So it's very important to us about that. I think the one part you said though too is all of the transparency. Our door is always open and I'm always willing to make it to whatever select board meeting you need me to. So whether it's myself or whether it's one of my board members. So I'm the chief of Cambridge Rescue. So I'm the person who runs all of the department personnel, but I'm run by my board of directors. So basically I'm held accountable.
Okay. So, and maybe I just missed it. So are you willing to offer a multi-year contract? Or is it?
So most of the time we do a year contract. If it's going to be a multi-year contract, realistically, it's going to have to be, it's just going to have to be on a tier system. So like, I can't offer you a 3-year for that amount, but what I can guarantee you is I'm not going to come at you this year and be like, hey, okay, it's 48,000. Next year, I'm going to come in, and this is where AmCare is notorious for certain stuff, and the for-profit agencies is they hit you with a low bid and then all of a sudden they nail you with a high bid. So really where like I have to make sure I keep up with our like actual increase is I have to increase our pay raises. I have to cover insurance cost increases every year and our costs. So basically it's typically sometimes if you look at it realistically, it's about a 7% increase. So, and that's what it costs for me to turn around and to operate between COLA. So like this year alone, if you look at COLA, it's almost 5.9%. So like, are my people going to get a 5.9 actual pay raise? No, but I have to be able to sustain them some sort of income though too. But also what we do see is we're seeing all of our equipment costs is going up every year about 7%. So really justifiably, it's just more to cover the expenses of, I guess it's raises, but that's also going to be basically divided by you and also Cambridge, and also Fletcher. So we have the 3 towns there, and then basically each one of them, we have to figure out how we can naturally come back, and I'm not here to turn around and to raise the cost on you so expensive to where it's not affordable.
Yep.
I don't want to do that. But also though, too, it's not responsible of me to come in and say, hey, okay, it's $48,000 this year, do it again next year for 48,000, do it again next year for 48,000. Do it again the next year for 48,000, and then come back in on the 4th year and hit you with a $10,000 increase. So that right there is where the taxpayers are basically very unhappy about.
Yep.
They hate to see those like big, large actual increases. So I think for the taxpayer to understand is they have to understand that, hey, sometimes you have to bite the cod at first, but then after that, as long as it's responsible and it goes up, it's basically to me, that's the most responsible way. And so I pay taxes myself. And so, like I said, too, I work in this full time as well. And there is nothing worse than I hate than having my taxes increased, right? Because of something, especially if I'm not getting a service and a service that I'm happy with.
Yep.
So, but I also hate it though, too, when the services come up and say, hey, I'm going to lift you 10 grand this year because I wasn't responsible the previous years to do it slowly.
Yep. If you guys are out, who is your backup? If you're out on a response and we have one here in Bakersfield, who would be your coverage?
So realistically, it's going to be who's ever going to be closer very well now because it goes, so everything's a little bit different now. It goes out into a regional dispatch. So, and the regional dispatch comes out of St. Albans. So our main dispatch center for us is basically Lamoille. So it would all depend on where the location is. So it very well could be Enosburg gets called. It could be AmCare gets called, or it could be FedEx gets called. So, yeah, like the other day we got mutual aided to where we actually responded to Georgia for AmCare.
Okay. So in that, with your dispatch being in Lamoille, is that going to affect the communications with our fire department?
So that should not. So what we would have to do is if we tied in with, I guess it's Bakersfield, is
Yep.
we would just update our radio communication stuff. So I would work with like Bakersfield Fire and stuff, right? So we would get together, we would sync our radios in for like channels and make sure we can actually communicate to whichever way y'all wanted us to respond to. So my understanding Bakersfield, so if I understand correctly, though, too, like you do have a first response agent or first response team, is that correct? Yep. So our board is made up, though, too, for Cambridge Rescue. So like you might know him, Michael Curtin. So like basically he sits on our board, and stuff. So like our board is made up of like actual, I guess it's members on top of I guess it's community members who sit outside. So one of my board members is a retired attorney for the district attorney of the drug task force. The other one's like Michael Curtin, so I got so many people who like understand so much about this to where we have actually already discussed our radio stuff, understanding the dispatch part of it. So we would work with you tell us whatever channels you want and we would get them programmed.
Okay.
And then also though, too, for your first response agency, we could pick up your agency and we could do all your trainings. So we could make sure that basically your affiliation ties in with us as well, if it came down to it.
Those were all the questions I had. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anybody out there have any questions? No. Go ahead. Bill?
Hey, thanks, Nathan. Bill Irwin, I live here in Bakersfield. I'm also on Bakersfield Fire and Rescue and EMT here. You mentioned you have paramedic level coverage. How many paramedics do you have on your staff there?
4.
Okay. And then how many ambulances do you have?
We have 2.
2. Okay. And
Yep.
do you find that those 2 are sufficient for the call volume that you have now and would have if you take on Bakersfield?
Yes. So last year at Cambridge, we did 450 calls. So basically that was 450 calls for our department. So you figure on average, that's, it's just a little bit more than a call a day. So we did have one shift where we actually ran, I guess it was 10 calls in one day between 6 in the morning and 6 at night. It was just an unusual day. Ski season for us is busy, so we might average a little bit more basically during this time. On average, we've had simotones. So it seems to be about 4 times a month. The majority of the time we've been able to cover them. So with like other people jumping in. So the only thing is if we have a second call, we cover it. Sometimes we can't cover the second call all of the times. And I can't guarantee you like basically highest level provider with the second call. Right. So, so we do also rely on, I guess it's mutual aid. We also mutual aid a lot over to Fairfax as well though too. And we mutual aid a lot over to Johnson and NIMS and them, but then again though too, the reason how come we're seeing our increase in those mutual aid times is because they started taking transfers over actually giving the 911 service to their town.
Okay.
So and that unfortunately puts the burden on agencies like us to turn around and cover for them as well. So their towns are paying that ambulance service and appropriation for us to have to turn around and cover them because they decided to go out.
And last question from me is, you're in a different district. We're District 1 here.
Yep.
Where do you get your medical direction when you're doing a call for Bakersfield? Do you get it from Lamoille, or do you get it from, or maybe Copley? I don't know. Or do you go
Yep. So our medical direction is actually out of Copley. So, but we have, so there's been multiple times too that we've gone basically to UVM, or I guess it's Northwestern, and we've actually contacted them though too as well to be like, hey, we're coming in with this. What are your recommendations? So like our protocols that we can function with and stuff like that. So it doesn't, it leaves, we can do a lot, so which is good. So I can innovate, and I guess it's the field, so like if you're respiratory distress, I can intubate you. I don't have to wait until basically you're deceased, or like I don't have to call in orders for it, and so forth. I think for y'all too, with the fire side of it, if you tie in with your first response agency with Cambridge Rescue, that would technically actually move you over into District 4.
Okay.
So just something just to kind of ponder on and process about that though too, which allows for your capability to be a lot more. But like I said though too, if you also come on with us, it's our responsibility to train you. Right. And it's our responsibility to make sure that, hey, you have everything you need. You know, and so our trainings have come a long way. So we're very active in training. We train our squad twice a month. You know, we just trained on Saturday for 8 hours. You know, too. So like we're very proactive.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Any other questions?
I do.
You do, John.
Can't see, but John West Bakersfield. My question is this: how many ambulances at any given time do you have functioning? Like, do you have like 2 crews out every hour of the day, or just one ambulance running?
One crew a day, you know, is scheduled. So we have our 24-hour day stuff, you know, that basically we have a crew assigned. You know, we have people who listen in and jump, you know, and so forth. If we know, you know, that, you know, we've had it where there's like special events and stuff too, to where we'll actually staff a second truck, you know, to make sure. So like I said, you know, the majority of our stuff is a single truck. We have 2, you know, and then the main thing is, you know, if the second call drops, we can't always guarantee we can get it, but I can tell you it's happened half of the time we're actually getting them. So we have 30 members on our roster. So we set pretty well.
All right. No other questions? Thank you, Nathan, for that.
Absolutely.
We'll take this information, deliberate a little bit, and touch base with our fire department. You know, we want to keep them in the loop also, and
Absolutely.
we'll get back in touch with you.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Bye.
So my next question is for you guys to speak up.
So he needs the actual thing. District 4 does allow more things to be done from District 1. At basic level and all the way up to the paramedic level. They do run paramedic crews where each person has 1 paramedic or 2 paramedics. But they don't run them on every crew, they run a team. So he's right, they are running a higher level crew. But their staffing is no different than first staffing, it's still 1 ambulance. So any other calls for a second ambulance calls, either somebody gets called in and they call me first.
Yep.
I mean, there's.
I think the level of care is.
Yeah. Might be a little higher. Because you're getting paramedics, but I can tell you running every day, the number of times you really need a paramedic are very limited. That the advanced EMT can do a lot. So yes, it's a higher level skill, but you don't always need it. You know, that same skill, if that makes sense to you.
Well, the highest level you can get is obviously always going to be better, but I think that's their biggest selling point, frankly, is they've got 4 paramedic persons.
The biggest difference is they can do things units per can, based on medical direction, and then they're running a paramedic level service.
Does
So
the
that's
fact,
where $10,000.
does the fact that they would take you into District 4, is that a positive for you guys, or is that a wash, or does it matter to you at all?
We can do some things that we can't do. We're a basic service in that, so it's not gonna change a lot. There are a couple of small things they allow basic.
Would this, he kept talking about training, their job to train you. Would this provide better training for our staff?
Yeah, we do a little bit of EMS training, but we focus mostly on fire training because most of our members are fire, and then we rely on Enosburg to train our EMS people.
So from my perspective, you know, the training offering, right, really that would be fairly beneficial. I don't want to be jaded by that. Everything that comes through this now, I truly believe it is very true. And there's one thing that echoes in my mind: 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
That's how long it takes them to get here.
30 minutes. Okay, that's to the village, so let's go down the way.
Right.
You could see, I mean, let's look at Bakersfield's jurisdiction. I mean, you could land something off Jones Road, off from, even up like Carroll Wright's, as
Yep.
far as Bakersfield up there, so.
what is, you know, just comparing apples to apples, what is, you know, to the station response time for Enosburg and Cambridge? Are they comparable, or is Enosburg?
Enosburg is 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I would, you know, I guess proof's in the pudding, you wouldn't know until we ran some calls with them. You don't know, all right, they got guys at the station who done, road conditions, throw that into play too. Are they out on the call?
5 to 10 minutes response.
Yeah.
Cambridge is gonna be a
Yep,
little-
yep.
And again, what end of Bakersfield do you want? Are you on my end of town or are you?
Up down,
If
Well-
you're on the Cambridge side, they're closer.
It's
If
the
you're
flip
on
on the other
the-
side, you just bring if you're all the way down Taylor Road, then it's the, you know,
Yeah,
it's not.
it goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
Not a question. So if you trade with them, with your first response team have a higher level of
It
care
could.
while
could.
they're getting here?
We could bring, they very, and this is speaking off the cuff, they very well could bring all of us firefighters up to EMRs. Right.
Yeah, it could be a real benefit to the community.
Enosburg would take us there, but we have to pay for it. I think they would help us. And that's the other thing, they work closer to their hospital, they get more stuff from their hospital that they don't fly, where Enosburg has to fly that supply versus. So there is a little trade.
There's benefits to them.
You almost, to me, you would almost talk like we would just become part of the team. Right now, we're an independent entity. So,
And that could be the case.
that's what I'm saying.
That's the way he made it sound, is he would almost, he pulls you guys under his wing and you guys are now his.
The members of our membership are being provided.
I just don't want to lose sight of the town's care.
Yeah,
And when
no,
say
I agree.
town's care, I mean response time.
I agree.
Boy, you know, I've been on some calls with minutes were precious. You know,
So I can give you the name of somebody at the health department, EMS, who might be able to tell you what the operating times are for the 2 fire department EMS squads.
Yep.
His name is Ray Walker. And I can, yeah, but they have a way to look at the data and see what the transport time is. And that could be a useful thing to
And
have.
Andrew can tell you how many times they've been out of service, how many times they've had to call back up, you know, when they're.
Do you- I was gonna say, do you know how many calls Enosburg?
Enosburg runs double that.
They run double.
Really? So theoretically,
Well,
they're,
But they're also doing transport that the one that they're not doing.
Right, so- okay, but when doing a transport, they're offline. So
Or they have to bring in.
calling in
you.
mutual-
They gotta have somebody else.
Or all get called in to cover.
So when he says he has 30 people on staff to back him, now is he talking, if his 911 rig goes out, if I'm understanding this, he's got one rig, sits there, 911 call goes out, that rig is designated for that call. He has another rig standing, or that's in the shop, that if there is offline people, they could come in, man that truck in the event of emergency.
Well,
Unless he's doing 24-hour shifts, so we get a day and then you have 3 days off.
So the second truck is allocated for jumpers. So people that listen to the pager, so that elongates your call time a little bit more. I guess from my perspective, and I'm speaking for you, but I think you guys go in, I think if you folks are very interested in them, what I would ask from the fire department first response side is a meeting with them prior to a decision of
Sure.
hammer down, this is what we can do for you, this is what we can offer. I mean, that was very good info tonight, with the training part of things, the District 1 to District 4, the biggest thing is dispatching. Radio communication. It's gonna be.
Does that affect the communications stuff that we just got from the state?
No, he said they dispatch out of St. Albans.
No, he said the overflow.
Oh,
The overflow dispatches out of St. Albans, goes to mutual aid.
It would be a big change, big learning curve for us, that we're open to.
Yeah.
So,
That's another piece with this dispatch. Who's gonna be paying Memorial Dispatch, for Cambridge's service to us?
Okay.
Is the town gonna have to pitch in for that?
Okay,
And pay all?
That's a good point. That's an excellent.
okay, yeah. That's one of those questions you should have asked it.
Well, if you're
Well-
gonna change, it's worth multiple conversations.
Absolutely. I'll be honest,
To tell you the truth, I don't think, I mean, I think there's too much to this, that we might have to tell Enosburg to do a 1-year contract. If we seriously want to look into doing something different, I don't know that we can
I would
get all
agree with
these
that.
pieces.
yeah, I agree. I don't think we
there's
could
Too
get,
much to the puzzle to try to do it in a month.
I don't know if we have a contract.
with Enosburg. Right, technically, it probably went to the first of the year, yeah, yeah.
And,
So,
and that could be something to take a look at is what is the, I keep hearing Enosburg creating problems for Enosburg ambulance service.
right,
And I wonder if the town of Cambridge has a better working relationship
it
with their
sounded,
rescue service.
it sounded that way
It
from
sounds-
his,
I've seen it at work too.
4 years ago, when Dave Sarver was running it, and Dave left, they went in the hole, they were down to 10 people, they couldn't run an ambulance. This guy, I know him, he's a real nice guy, real sharp dude, he really brought this back to where it was prior to that downfall. They were at the point they were gonna go out of business.
he said that, yep, he said that they brought him in and,
And he's done a real good job of bringing it back up. And they've done a good job, but all the good question, I don't know about the dispatch.
But
If that's the 10,000, that's the extra, then that's.
if
not
they're
a bad
paying the
deal.
dispatch, then, I mean,
So if I could, what hospital do you wind up going if you go with Cambridge? Are you taking me down? to
depends,
Rockwood?
depends on where you are.
They have to
Well, I'm
transfer
saying
that
it will go to Northwest.
It should go, okay, that's my concern.
Well,
Down this way,
unless-
we're gonna
yeah.
get that 1.4.
Yep,
Yeah, well, the reason I.
Or the nice part, I would say the nice part with District 4 is, if you say, I wanna go to the medical center, they're taking you to the medical center. Right now, Northwest says we can't go around that.
Yep.
I have to go to Northwest.
okay.
So that's the other. piece.
So you get choice, basically.
A little bit more
You say, I
flexible.
wanna go, our protocols, state protocols say that if I request to go to down to UVM, you have to transfer from UVM. District protocols say, no, we wanna see them Northwest, and make sure they're stable before we get. to-
So what about, just because it's been used a lot lately, what about the Dartmouth, the Dart, is that, doesn't change anything? Okay. That's something completely different, it's its own thing then? Okay.
I think, another thing to take a look at is what our community serves. Cambridge is just doing Cambridge and Fletcher right
Right,
now. Enosburg is doing Bakersfield, how many other towns?
Berkshire,
Innisburg, Berkshire, Sheldon.
Montgomery,
Montgomery.
Go down Sheldon,
Franklin.
Franklin.
what about Montgomery?
And Montgomery.
So they're, that's stretching their resources.
So
Well,
you've got
that's two
Innisburg going into
ambulances.
Montgomery, so in retrospect, that's almost more travel than Cambridge
We
coming back.
can't eat from
Oh,
Montgomery
it's-
to the Colony.
I was gonna say, that's gonna be 45 minutes to, that's, okay, that's not
They're
bad.
coming from West.
Yeah,
That's one.
So yeah, there is designs where.
Well, I've gotta-
But
yeah.
the nice part is we.
Yeah.
So it's not like.
And it would be the same.
And we'll always have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Could, yeah.
And we,
I think
this did,
the paramedic thing, having more paramedics would be a huge asset to this town. I do carefully want to say that, if you folks make a decision, that you chime us in,
Well,
because this is really gonna affect us
Yeah.
hugely.
I
Even
feel,
before making the
let us know.
I feel comfortable enough saying that we would not make any decisions in changing service without having you guys meet with the service that we would be changing to, getting your opinions, because again, I don't have the knowledge that you guys have. You guys are the experts on this, as I told Todd earlier. I'll be 100% honest with you. I did not think when, I thought this was gonna be a courtesy call, to be honest with you. I did not think he was gonna be able to drop 10,000 right off the top and kind of wow you guys. I mean,
But also keep in mind, he only put a one-year contract.
right.
He's kind of doing what Butler does, in the sense that you're not locked in for a period of time, you go up every year.
Right.
Substantially, so he's not telling you because he doesn't know what his cost is.
So the upside of 1 year is we get a year work with them, let's just go to that, just get a year work with them. See what they're made of, see what they offer, could be great, good, and wonderful, if they come in 12 months later at $18,000 more, then we pissed Stevensburg off.
Right.
That would be hard on the board.
Yeah. Yeah, because then there's
I
nothing
mean,
stopping.
I'm looking at both.
Yeah,
I'm not on
absolutely,
either side of the fence,
absolutely.
but I'm just looking at the hard facts.
He's on both sides of the fence over there. He's Eansburg, Bakersfield, he's everything.
At the end of the day, I think everybody in this room, it's what's best for the
Absolutely.
citizens, what's best for the community, and the patient at need at the time. That is first and foremost.
Do you think if we asked Larry for a 1-year contract and we're straight up, completely transparent with him and said, we're with you this year because we know what your response is. We know what your services are. Cambridge is right on your heels and offering better services, not just for our townspeople, but training for our department. We're gonna go with them next year and, buck up, figure out what you've got to do to,
They're gonna take it because whatever.
They
town
need
they
it.
lose, it's gonna go in Eastburg top.
Yeah.
So as a taxpayer in Eastburg, like I can tell you, Richford pays, I think it's $8 per capita, $60 per capita, it's an unreal amount,
Ugh.
because they don't work with anybody else.
yep,
So their cost is high. So every town Eastburg loses, their cost goes up to their per capita, and for the per capita of every other town. Does that make sense?
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So that's another bargain. So they can't afford to lose.
Right? So,
You've got a tough decision today.
yeah,
If I was in your shoes, Rick,
I think you're gonna sit down with the spreadsheet. And benefits of each one, and which one.
We gotta find out about the dispatch before we can even do anything, because if we have to pay dispatch, then we're talking another.
Because you're gonna say that, you're gonna say, I'm gonna say, you're not dispatching for Christmas phone, you're only doing 5, you're doing $10 a year.
Yeah.
That's gonna change. Based on number of calls.
Right.
okay,
That makes sense.
Open discussion, but, another piece to the response is it's not only the time to get here, it's the time to find the location. Enosburg, we have the 3 people
Yeah.
that live in Bakersfield, they know the territory.
Yeah.
Cambridge is gonna be coming in here, they'll get used to it. But when you've got that much staff, and that will change with the calls to get all those people accustomed to the roads and.
They're all using active now.
Yeah.
That's where the 911 has to really be applied.
so, yeah, I was gonna say, the new trucks have that.
Somebody's asking us something.
Who is that from?
Dropped off, but you need to read the question out so it gets into the line, so.
Who is it?
It
What
was
hap-
Linda had asked the question before she dropped in the call.
Yeah.
Can you read
Oh,
it out
she's
loud?
asking about the subscription.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
just need
think
to
we
read
didn't
it.
ask him, that's one point, did they do a subscription?
They-
We don't, first off, we don't capture the chat line, so you need to read the question out loud so it gets captured for the meeting if you could.
Cambridge does offer a subscription. What's that? Yes.
Can you read the question?
Okay. I don't, yeah, what happens to the $75 per household that's paid to Enosburg Ambulance Service to reduce the personal insurance liability in event of a household has to use their service.
Usually the free ride.
I honestly can't answer that. That would be a question for Cambridge. Now, you asked if Cambridge does have that. They do. They offer a subscription plan, as does Enosburg. Subscribers to the program pay $50 annually and directly to Cambridge Rescue, and then pay nothing else out of pocket for deductibles or co-pays relating to emergency transport. So it is cheaper. It's cheaper per household.
It's cheaper for us to buy it all 1,300 households. Seven pay contract.
Interesting thought.
So what if we have that meet with Cambridge
I think that's the next step.
and then before we even sign on? with it?
I think first of all, we need to get the dispatching.
Yep.
Because that could end it all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I don't know.
Because if it doesn't include dispatching, we're done with them anyway.
Could you? So,
Yeah, can we call him back? Call him back?
Call it back.
we can. I need
I'll
to
ask him
talk.
reach out for a minute.
Oh, you can ask him to rejoin.
Hang on 1 second. We have technology.
We do have the technology. We don't know how to use it, but we got it. Paul, I'm gonna have you step forward over here by this chair, right here, so that you can ask the question, because I don't want to misword it, because there may be something you know about that
It's
that I don't.
not.
Yeah, I know, but just so he's on camera,
No. There you go.
just a little bit.
Hey, thanks for answering. Do this favor, return your call just for 1 minute. There's another couple questions that just popped up while we were discussing. If you have an opportunity. Thank you, talk in a minute.
No. We don't have time as in.
Let's go to rejoin, just 1 moment.
Yep, no, that's fine. Was there any other questions that came up for
The
him?
only thing we're talking about is if the way they're thinking is they're gonna get calls and calls and all, there's a delay
So there's a delay on the call.
on that call for us. to
Okay.
do dispatch.
He's
Not yet.
We have to let him
So
in.
it just.
He'll be a moment.
So you're saying if Bakersfield gets a call,
It
we,
goes to 911, they're gonna go to the dispatch center in Memorial.
if they're busy,
If we're not out to Memorial, they're gonna go to Central, so there's another transfer.
Yeah.
That delays that, us getting dispatched out.
okay,
Does that make sense?
yep.
Yeah.
Because the way he said it, it made it sound like he was just gonna pick up your frequencies.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do radio.
For
Here he
working
comes.
Yeah.
call, but it's a dispatch. that we're-
Want to admit him now?
Yes, yeah.
Is there anything?
Welcome back.
Hey, Nathan, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. At least I'm not in my house coat yet. So we're all
So
set.
we have Paul Stanley here. He's on our fire department. And he brought up a point on dispatch, and I'll let him ask the question so I don't.
Yeah,
The question is, Nathan, from the cost of the dispatching, if you're working with Memorial Dispatch and all of our dispatching, and we pay for the town pays for dispatch out of St. Are we gonna get tagged with another dispatch fee through Memorial if we go with your service?
So that's a great question. So the answer to that is I'm going to say no. So the reason is for that is we're going to actually operate off of your channel. So that is something we will put in basically to ours. So we will actually directly communicate with you. You're going to stick with your same actual dispatch part. So we will just operate with you off off. I'm sorry. I can't even say that stuttering. I apologize. Like we will work with you off of your own frequency.
Right, but we're talking about the dispatch, Nathan.
Oh, so like everything is done, so everything is done off of the regional dispatch. So you will not be basically charged out of basically Lamoille County. No. No, you will not have to pay a fee into it. So like everything goes in from, I guess it's regional dispatch. So I operate off of Lamoille's channel. You don't, right? So like whenever the 911 call gets placed, it'll go over to basically regional dispatch in St. Albans, and then St. Albans will actually contact Lamoille dispatch and they will tone us. So basically Lamoille will never ever have to function with you.
Will that delay response times?
So I would, regional dispatch is going to delay response time throughout the whole state. So, so that's probably my best answer to you. So the problem is that the regional dispatch was pushed and it's going to end up going through a lot of agencies no matter what. So that's something we're not going to be able to go about. So as for time frame, I think the general time frame that I see and what we deal with even out of Williston is about a 2-minute difference. So I haven't seen it very much higher in that time. So, but
Another one in that area, Nathan, is a lot of times we will be communicating, per se with Enosburg as they're coming in from a first response standpoint. So, you're thinking if we got the frequencies on the radios matched up, that we would basically be doing the same thing with you folks as you're responding so that we can update you on the situation.
absolutely. And I do propose that one of the ways that we actually get that going is basically we train together with it. So that way your agency and basically all of our staff can get together and then we can actually meet. But also though, we know who you are, you know who we are, and we know the ways you actually want to communicate with us too.
Okay?
All right.
Yep. Thank you.
And I'm assuming that you would be willing to come and meet with our department. Would you guys be the full department or just the officer team? With the officer team, to hammer out some of these fine details that we don't know as a select board, not being in the first response world.
Yeah, absolutely. So very much so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I think that's it this time.
Okay.
If not, we'll hit you up in another 20 minutes. Don't go to bed yet.
Okay, very good.
Thanks again.
All right, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
All right.
Wow. We're full service.
He does. So I think you're right, Terry. I think we have to, due to time, I think we have to renew with Enosburg for a year. And I don't see, I'm having a hard time seeing a negative to giving Cambridge a chance. Personal opinion.
When do you need this done by?
Well, if we go with Enosburg for this year, it would be, hopefully you guys could meet and say, yeah, this is gonna work. This is gonna work for both parties.
Technically, we don't need it till January 24th,
23.
23.
Yeah, because we need to know this time next year.
No.
She said January
Well-
of this year.
Well,
Do you have a valid contract in place now?
with Enosburg, no.
It expired January
It
1st.
ex- And I think it's a gentleman's agreement that carries through to town meeting day.
Yeah.
Just not anything necessarily on paper, because there's probably says December 31st, which means theoretically we would be without a contract right now.
Okay, so June 1st. I'm getting devil's advocate.
I think they need to meet.
Yeah.
I think the
And then
first
they
thing,
can
let us
decide.
meet, see how
You
quick
mean
we can turn this
You
around.
say again. I guess I'm confused by what you said, Matt. Say again.
It has to be a full year with Enosburg.
does it have to be a full year with Enosburg?
Common courtesy, they figured that out for well.
Yep.
Is, I know,
Right,
they're still providing service to us. They can, if hypothetically, you folks decided to go in that direction, that transition is gonna fall upon us, and we need to make sure that the town is 100% safe. No room for loopholes.
right.
If you're saying January 24th, I'm gonna tell you right now, we can't switch that quick. Effectively
no.
safe.
I was
But
saying,
also, I wouldn't want you to go to Enosburg, because they're losing something big. Well, ish. I wouldn't want you to go to Enosburg and say, "Oh, you're done next week."
right,
I think it would be common courtesy
No.
to say, hey, we decided to go to another agency, you can go to service, for X.
well, when I said January, I meant January 2023, not January 23rd.
Okay.
Yeah, we do a calendar year contract, and January 1st, 2023, you guys would have everything hammered out with Cambridge and transition wise, and then we would start with them.
I thought this was.
No. Yeah, I could see where the confusion was. I don't,
So
yeah.
is he aware of that too?
No, this is the first conversations we'd have with him, except for this paperwork right here,
Okay.
which was just, he was like, I can send you a budget quote and,
Which we have to realize though, that the 48,000 might not be what's quoted either.
So we need to find out.
48,000 is this year.
Right,
Right,
that's
if we
what I'm
went, if we
saying.
went with him this year, it'd be 48,000.
Right,
Yeah.
so come next year, we could be looking at a different figure.
Well, yeah,
Well, we'll
Right.
have some advanced warning.
well, and
If these guys are gonna be working with them throughout the year, negotiating, we'd have advanced warning as to what the budget would be. And if they
Yeah.
say, well, it's gonna be $52,000, we're gonna say, hey, maybe we're better off sticking with Enosburg,
Right,
you know?
yeah. But at that point, does Enosburg say,
And it's
well,
like
you were
I
gonna
said,
go
I
48?
wouldn't wanna see you jump for 12 months and then have them do a balloon.
Right, well, and that's what he said. He said, we're not out to do like Amcare does, but I mean, anybody can see. We,
That would give you some time to find out what's going on, because I hate like hell to go with Cambridge, as you said, and then try and sneak back in with Enosburg next year because things didn't work out. That's not gonna settle well.
what you're saying with either entity. Okay.
Whether it's 6 months, 12 months, prep time.
Yep.
I mean, I apologize, I misinterpreted that.
No, it's-
I think a year contract is coming to a place where we're gonna look at English as one of those years for sure, all of a sudden, then you gotta go to use for you already took this one,
Right,
So, yeah. I think you gotta look at it
I-
between the two.
yeah,
I think they're both comparable, those are two good ones.
Seems like, and Todd can relate to this too, that we have the divide between the politics and the service. And I'd like to go to one example is Georgia. Because Georgia was running the fire department, the select board was running the fire department. And you see a lot of animosity between those two, the politics and the service.
our friends to the north.
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Very
what
good
it-
job.
That's what I'm trying to point out.
Yeah,
And I think that's probably a plus to the Cambridge, because they're a separate entity. They weren't dealing with the town politics in there.
Yep.
It's their own service that they gotta make go. So,
and he was right up front. He said, we have a cushion of 35 to 40,000 that we keep for emergencies.
So, I mean, we've discussed this, we've thrown it back and forth.
yeah,
Would it be too much to ask for a recommendation from you guys?
I'd like to meet them first.
Yeah.
I'm leaning either way.
Fair enough.
You still
Yeah.
have his number?
Because this is, it all has to do with you guys. it shouldn't be really decided by us, but we're on the periphery here. Yeah, we kind of know what's going on, but we don't know the nitty-gritty of all this.
And what's going on in Heidi, with you and you?
I think it would be good to include them in your.
That's his
informational
phone number.
Yeah.
Would you like it?
before town
As
meeting.
for the,
Yep. You're going to seriously consider changing, if they could come to town meeting informational day,
Mhm.
that would be very useful, so that the rest of the town has an opportunity to meet these.
Well, for budgetary purposes, we will have to have made a decision by then.
yeah.
That's the first part, you gotta know the next.
Right.
Yeah,
But
And also, though, if they do come, you all should come, because we got more from your response to them,
Yeah,
yeah,
than them stuff.
yeah.
Like, I understood what you were saying, well, more than I understood as to that.
It-
Because you guys are talking from experience, we just don't know.
I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. I'm happy to say it. That you guys are the experts. And quite honestly, when this one came in to give us the speech and we got the rest of these, we theoretically should have kicked this over to you guys. Ideally, we would have got this back in December or November. So that you guys could have kicked these around, gotten this feel from him personally, in-house, got all the information, compared apples to apples, kicked out the oranges, and came to us with a recommendation for, this is the ambulance service we as the fire department think is gonna best serve our town. Because let's face it, we're all on this, we're all in the same boat. We all want what's best for our town and our town's people. You guys speak the lingo,
I was on them in
right?
May to get this done in May. They're just going to use the COVID-19 funds anyway to cover it.
Yeah.
Is it,
The work is like, so there's some strategy to use for this.
yeah, is it too much, time-wise to ask that you guys have a meeting? And show up at our next, regularly scheduled select board meeting? And we can make a decision at 24th.
24th.
Our the next scheduled,
Yeah.
regular meeting to 24th.
I have some,
We can put off the decision of who we choose until then.
So I think first and foremost, us as a department needs to Nathan, if we can do a constitution saying, when do we hear, so we'll be looking at January 2023.
I think that's,
Would that be a correct
It's
assumption?
fair, yeah. I mean, it's possible that we could make the decision by the 24th of this year and go with them. But I think that's too short time-wise.
especially considering, were you here for Larry's conversation? Larry Jarvis?
No, it's an executive session.
No, tonight's.
Oh, tonight.
So I know you were, were you here for that? We kind of gave him some stipulations and guidelines for him to come back to us. If he can meet those, that changes a little bit of it also, so.
And I also don't want.
Are we good to give these to them?
Yeah. You know,
I don't want.
Well, to that point, I think initially what was put forward at the very beginning of this, it was Phil, correct, Phil? Phil had said, Phil, they said that we should put this to taxpayers and see, or the town people, and see if they even want to change the services, and I thought it was like, yeah, we should probably do that, was the response. I may have misread it though.
Well, you think about that though, and I want to mention that this was such a nuanced argument or talk. These guys understood it. Half of these guys sort of understood it. I don't put it to the townspeople in a way that they'd be able to understand it, other than, here's what it's gonna cost you. And it's going up or it's going down.
Josh,
That's
you
my
think
point.
time's
You
too
can't
short
make
to
a
make a
decision.
decision?
I think time's too short for this year.
No,
I think
we're 10 months
Larry's
away.
right.
from-
I think we-
I'd say we're 10 months away from having a decision.
You already said that. Time's too short to change
Well,
this
if
year.
they've got, well, now we got the answer to the dispatch though.
Yeah,
I'll reach out to Nathan.
but Matt was saying, you know, it's kind of short notice for them to change over.
Two things from him would be to make sure that The two things is to bring to him would be, your start date is not January, it would be
What is it?
either June or January.
It's too much parts.
What would be
Yeah.
your price of 2023?
We're already on the track.
If he comes in $12,000 above that, then maybe he might go a little bit short.
Successfully
I agree.
negotiated down.
So,
Yeah, I agree with that. Did you hear what he said?
Yeah, there's too much mumbling on my lap.
Take them to one spot, put them in the stuff.
He said they're gonna meet with them. They'll talk to them, then they'll talk about it. It's not gonna happen in January of this year.
He said that they almost changed the work style. They changed who they work on.
Right.
23.
January 2023 is more
What-
reasonable.
What would be the cost? And if he raises it
get in on
12.
meeting.
And we've got 12 months to think of that.
then we're done with them anyway.
They provide a good
Because
service.
we're not gonna have it
So-
$12,000 every year.
So what do you propose? We go to Enosburg ambulance for this year and give
I say
them,
we wait to see what Enosburg has to say to us.
The one thing that from
That's right,
Cambridge
Josh
that
did
has
propose
grabbed
it to me.
me as far as chief
Yes,
is
that's Mr. Wood.
the proof in the
Mr.
pudding
Rock.
would be required
Mr.
to
Irwin,
be the training officer.
oh,
Yeah,
sorry to do change some.
That right there speaks really loud.
Which Enosburg does,
oh,
have enough of their own training, they can get their own people. Yeah.
so, yeah, as we've said, I think at this point, we're looking 2023. And like you said, Matt, be right up front and straight with him, you know. This is how we should have done it to begin with. We didn't get the information from our original bid in time to do that. I didn't actually know that bid or that contract had run out, so yeah, I think 2023, if we can get all the ducks in a row and all the information is good.
Personally, I feel if there is gonna be a switch, that would be a better way to do it because it gives us time to fill them out. And I totally wholeheartedly agree with Todd. I feel that a multi-year contract, you know, with an upfront pricing, you know, hammered out. you know,
Yep.
Essentially like what we do with our,
Oh, yeah.
with you folks, for A, budget purposes, but also, we don't.
We don't want to wish wash. Yep. Yep.
We're one or the other.
I personally, I think I'd like to see a 3-year minimum. As Todd spoke earlier, 3 to 5 is ideal.
So from the fire department standpoint, I mean, we're not gonna answer that sort of stuff with him, rather gain information for you.
Yep, yep. That's what we're looking for, is if you can get the information that's beneficial to you guys, which tells you what you're gonna get for a service, and then come to us with a recommendation. All 4 quotes are in there, but I think we're pretty much down to the 2. That would be greatly appreciated from us.
Something changes on your end where, you know, you just on the post, whatever. You end up in the same thing.
I remember being involved with negotiations between Richford and Enosburg ambulance, trying to get them together. And one thing that came out of that, and it never really happened, and Nate can talk a lot about it, is relying on another ambulance service and a mutual aid system, like the fire departments have, and this is the president of our fire department county association, and we're working together as a mutual aid. And when we see resources from the volunteer service dwindling, like they are, we need that. And I think that the emergency medical system needs to be looking at that too, but that's outside our.
They have it, not the same.
Right.
So I know you guys weren't showing up hoping to get more work, but it looks like we might have pawned some off on you.
That's important.
It is.
Thank you for being willing to do that.
And thank you for coming tonight. Obviously, we should have,
Well, we're waiting for Larry to get back to us.
Yeah.
Either way, you gotta do that.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. If it's a 1 year,
Extension of the current contract?
Ask for 6
That's
months.
what I said, 6 months extension,
that's not.
Or a
bad.
year.
Yeah.
or even a year. Just
Yeah.
say, look, we're, it cost us 2%, we'll pay you that.
Yeah.
At least you know that you got that. And
Yeah.
say this because we're working closely with our
Yep. Yep, excellent. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Closer to breakfast.
The what? It's in the, yeah, we haven't gone over those yet.
It's in this budget packet. Yep, yep.
Yeah,
that's-
it was, last year was
It may be
400,
in-
right? Was it the same this year?
Missisquoi River Basin Association. It's, yeah, we don't need it right now. We just want to make sure we got it.
I'll either email or text.
It's right here, Tammy.
For this, email would be
No,
perfect.
it's right in her-
Because, is it in this one? Email would be best, Matt, just so that I can print and
Text me your email.
absolutely. Have a good one. Matt Hall,
Yeah, no matter.
Todd Cosgrove, Robert Willick, standing right there in the green.
Yep.
And
Paul Stanley in the
Paul
door.
Stanley was the
Yep.
gentleman,
And then Bill.
Bill Irwin.
Irwin.
Got everybody?
Robert Willie used to be a skinny little thing.
Robert
We
Williams.
all used to be.
Yeah.
Let's not be mean.
Don't pick on the fat people.
Yeah.
No fat jokes.
Yeah, tell what? Probably, yep, yep.
We won't tolerate.
All right. The roads were there when we started. Are they still there?
Mac, I got a question on that. I had one written report and one verbal about, perhaps changing the way that the sidewalk is, the snow's removed from the sidewalk in a way that doesn't clog up people's steps. And I looked, there's only about a half a dozen people that shovel their front steps, because that's their in and out for that. But when he goes through with the wet, heavy stuff, it really made a problem for at least one older citizen.
I can mention too, it's hard when you're trying not to hit the driveway, trying not to hit that, trying not to hit the window.
I got it.
Yeah.
He might be, I'll ask him, he could probably blow it down the sidewalk a little further.
And then off.
That'd be perfect.
I'd blow it right out in the middle of 108.
Well, they usually tend to throw it back.
Yeah, well, that was the problem, is now that it accumulates on the sidewalk directly from the plow. That's a little bit heavier than the regular snowplow.
Not in there. Okay,
He's gonna call Kathy and
okay,
send us something.
excellent. Yep, I know we get it every year, so it's not a surprise.
It's
Yeah.
$400,
Yeah,
same thing.
it's never changed.
Yeah, it went up last year.
Thank you, Matt.
Road report.
What did you want to do with those windows? It looks to be 7 or 8 of them.
Cover them all.
Well, no.
We have a
What did
police,
we find
yeah,
out with insurance?
yes,
That's what she's talking about.
$1,000 deductible.
$1,000 deductible. We do need a police report in and on record for that.
How many windows?
Either 7 or 8 that are broken right now. If you were to replace, cover them all, it's almost, what they were, 4.
How much would it cost?
That was
to
a number
repair
of flags.
kids' brick
That was a
house?
number of flags.
Oh, that was a joke.
Yeah, that was on that.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
50 windows?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted to cover them all. And the lift
There's
was,
50 windows? Holy
the lift was,
Some of them are already covered.
no, that's the ones that aren't covered.
Oh, really? Oh, boy.
The
So there's
lift was
60 total.
30 a day for the bigger one. You have to pay a moving fee, so I don't know if you get to
I don't think you'd reach.
Stuff was.
I don't care. We turn it in anyway, because it's deductible. If we have other issues again, it goes right on. So
Can
we lose more windows?
Can't claim the ones that we're covering that aren't broken, can we?
No.
No,
So,
that's what we're saying is,
Yeah.
No, the
if we're-
50 we can.
if we're only covering, if we've only got 8 that are broke, unless the sheets of plywood are $100 a piece.
Yeah, there's 8 that are broken, but are there any chipped, any
So you went
got a
back out and
little
looked.
crack?
You'd
Not
have-
really
you'd have to get a-
inspect.
You'd have to get a cop there to inspect them.
exactly.
Yeah. So it's not worth going through the
Would.
insurance.
Depends
Well,
on
we
which
don't know
cop you
that
get.
yet.
$1,000.
$7,000-8,000, it's worth it.
But like, if you go through the insurance. and
It's a
they-
$1,000
They
deductible.
give you money to replace the windows. Do you need to replace the windows, or can we just take?
I don't think it would be money to replace.
What would insurance cover?
I think it would be to eliminate further damage.
Well, that's one part, but I think he's onto something
No,
because,
I'm thinking, if I have a broken window in my house, my homeowner's insurance is gonna pay me to replace that window.
Yeah,
So what
No,
you're
what
saying
they're
is,
and
gonna
eight of
do
those,
is they're gonna cut
eight
your
of those
check
is
for
definitely more than
500,
1,000.
And
absolutely.
you can use it to replace your window, you can leave your window that way, but
Well, that's
you
what
won't get it
Right.
replaced again
But
by
it-
then.
I think what she's saying, Terry, is if we've got 8 windows that are broken, the replacement value of those windows is a hell of a lot more than the price of a sheet of plywood.
Especially those windows.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah, you're
if
right.
a cop shows up and
Oh,
says,
so
you've
you're-
got 8 windows plus the ones that
So
are
we
boarded up
wanna
that need
put
to be
in for
replaced.
Replacement, not boarding.
so,
Gotcha.
No, we give
We'll
them
revisit
money
it.
to replace.
but we will,
And then board.
we will ask that. the
Well,
insurance-
And if the
Right.
insurance company asks, we plan on replacing them later.
We'll have a
Well, you
police
want to
report.
That will be.
I
We'll
would
have
say
a-
Start-
replace
yeah.
it.
start with.
So I think
Because
the next,
they're all
the
gonna
first
be
step is
replaced
getting a
with
police
plastic.
report. We'll
If
wanna
that
make,
ever happens.
so we'll wanna make sure that in the police report, I'm not sure, Mac, will you be the one that probably gives the tour, or it may be Lance, depending on
What?
if we have a cop show up and we get a police report, I think it would be very important that they also see the other windows that have been vandalized in the past that we have taken the money out of the local budget to fix.
Yep, and
Because
it-
those are also vandalism. It's just we've
And
taken
is there
care of.
anything inside that's been vandalized with respect to that too? Because
Kids and shit, does that
it
count?
might be a cleanup.
No, that
On
doesn't
aisle 4.
count.
Ammonia.
So a sheet of plywood is, a sheet of OSB is like $30, $30 down at Home Depot, just because I can look it up fast. A sheet of half-inch thick plywood, which will last longer if it's gonna be up there any length of time, because OSB, when it gets wet, will fall apart. Sheeting plywood is $46 a piece. So you figure if you need 50 sheets of plywood, you're over $2,000 in plywood alone. Now you're renting the device, you're gonna go two days, we'll say maybe 3. So you're at about another $1,000 rounded up with taxes.
Don't forget labor.
Huh?
Don't forget labor.
Well, well, I don't know who's doing it. Is it the crew, or they're already paid, so you kind of bake that in, I guess, or they don't know if you have to pay them extra. And then you have to add in screws, right? So you've got all that. You're
Always
looking
getting
at probably somewhere between $2,700 to $3,000 plus taxes.
We're a tax
We'll do our
exempt.
diligence.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
do our
I'm sorry, I'm used to paying.
God.
But, yeah, we're looking somewhere in the neighborhood of between $2,500 and $3,000
Yep.
to do this.
I think we did put in 4. Yeah. All right,
So the beginning is getting the police report.
right.
So
And
is
you're
there
on that?
vandalism inside the building?
Mac has the
Mac's
number.
on it.
Has there been
Yes.
vandalism inside the building?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, then that's where you go, that's when you wanna go to the insurance company, and go, look, they're breaking windows, they're vandalizing the building. We need to, we know we have the deductible, we need to get this building buttoned up, and we're coming to you to fix it.
That's why he's calling the cops.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the best word.
All right,
top calling.
so that's not a road, but
Oh, but thank you.
that's not a road, but we'll cover it anyway.
You gotta go to Connie and get a key.
Another-
She's apparently the only one that's got, my keys don't work. Yep. His name's Connie, right?
Yeah.
That's what I did last time.
I didn't even grab the mail. How bad is that?
I gave my last working key to,
I think we can.
Paul Dreyer, and he lost the goddamn thing.
Covered
Oh,
one
nice,
thing.
Lance.
Do we have an ARPA update?
Yeah, we've got the final letter from the Treasury Department on the decision.
Okay.
For that, so it is more expansive
Okay.
than we thought. It will cover more than we thought, and they've alluded to other things that we can do with it. We've already talked to several agencies in town that were hampered by the COVID from their fundraising. So if you know of churches or civic organizations that fundraise in town, they're eligible for ARPA funding for what they lost in in their usual and customary fundraising, because they couldn't do it because of COVID. Whether it's an indoor activity, outdoor activity, whatever it was for fundraising, it's eligible.
Okay, excellent.
I hope we find something more
Right back.
I hope we use the ARPA money for something that's more lasting.
We got 2 years. to
No, I
figure it
know.
out. And whatever ideas you got, we'll listen to.
The problem is, I think, Carrie, is the, what they're using it for is only stuff that's affected by COVID. So it's,
Right.
so I mean, unless you had something in the works pre-COVID that got shut down, it probably won't be eligible. That's the way I kind of am understanding the way it's going.
There's a lot to it. and
Yeah.
it's,
That's
I'm
the only
attending
downfall
another-
I see is they're making it very
I'm
specific.
attending another regional development association meeting on ARPA as well. So what they're trying not to do and what's been told is don't spend ARPA money on something that has a reoccurring fee or cost, even if it was COVID related. Because
an
the
ambulance
funds, these
service.
funds run out.
Right.
Yeah, these funds run out, so they're finite. We'll get to look at them all, whatever people put together, so.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be voted on town meeting, but we are, as a select board, the final arbiter of what they're gonna do, so. I've got some work to do.
All right,
We will hear what everybody is proposing, and we do get to add a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Brigham Academy, any updates since?
Doug Kennedy reports to Paul Dreher that the market study report for Brigham Academy project is done. It is up for review.
For
Paul,
what study?
Market,
it's
Market?
a feasibility study, basically, part of the feasibility study there. It'll let us know how many units,
Above my desk.
what the basic need is determined by this researcher, Doug Kennedy. And so Paul Dreher, Kathy Lavoy, Tim Smith, Doug Kennedy, and I are meeting a week from Wednesday at 1 o'clock via Zoom to review that.
excellent. And so that means you'll have a even more in-depth update for the 24th.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I have a copy of the, shoot, I don't have a way to print it. I'll have to send it to
That's
Kathy to print it off. It's like 50 some odd pages.
Tammy, what's that?
What did I just call that thing?
Feasibility
It's a
study.
market study report for Brigham Academy, sorry. It's part of the feasibility study.
Tammy, have we received any bids for an outside audit?
We're supposed to get one by the 17th.
Okay.
Sullivan and Powers, they called, I answered a bunch of questions I've had, we called our system.
Okay.
She's talked to him, and he said they'll get it by
Okay.
Is anybody else interested in getting a copy of that report?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you
I'll
send
just-
us the lands, I can print that off at the office here.
Yep. I don't know why I closed the book here. I should
I
have just done it.
Did let Mac go just a hair too quick.
Why?
Well,
More bids.
we got more bids. We said, what are more bids? Bids on a more.
How much?
Well, I'm gonna open them right
Are
now,
those, when does that end?
first of the year.
Oh, okay.
That's when,
Last year.
first of this year. Right. And I've actually had a couple people ask me if we looked at the bids and seen who won yet. And I said, not until the next meeting. So we have one from,
It's a Brenda and Tammy, it's a chain of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emails. Yeah, I'll link together. Okay, and in there, buried is the report.
Correct one. You gotta look at.
In there somewhere, yep.
there. That was if you read the last paragraph on Vera's resignation. I knew we had that, it was in the mail.
Yeah, she can't resign until we get somebody else. She didn't want to be, no.
She's not.
All right,
It was my understanding that, no. She would think that, but I thought she said no. I could be mistaken.
terrible open mail here. Okay, we have 3 bids on the mower. The winning bid is by Andy Briette. Brulette,
Andy Brulette.
Brulette, for $5,150.
Sure, he's looked at it. He knows that there's gonna be some work that needs doing.
Well, that's the sealed bid
May I ask
system.
what the other two were?
So
There are 2 other ones. I do
he
not
was
believe.
asking about, but Mac's gone now. Cause Andy had asked me about that.
Okay,
Is everything you see out there, or is there some parts that might be?
He may have some spare parts in the garage, but,
I'm not
There
100%.
was one bid, just written on a piece of scrap paper.
Yep, that one right there.
Okay,
There's, put those down.
just wanna make sure.
Sealed bids, are they made public or is it
the other two.
just the winning bid that's made public? Just the winning bid. That's,
That's hilarious. That's his father-in-law.
So,
so,
Right undercut him.
really?
okay, Tammy, this one will be, if you could phone Mr. Brulette,
Briette.
his phone number is there. Tell him that he won the
He's
bid
actually Abby's uncle.
Oh, really? Okay.
and, yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I have, yes, tell him that he has won the bid on the mower and that he can contact Matt to schedule pickup and of everything that's there.
Should I just have Matt call us?
That could be a better option.
Okay.
Yep.
That's what I would do.
Did you want to see
Did
these
you
other
put his
2?
number on
They're
there?
only,
That's not what we
Yeah.
showed.
okay. These will be filed in the garbage as the sealed bid is not made.
Hang on to them until
Okay.
Mr. Briette picks them up.
Okay, that's fine too.
I would file them.
Yeah,
Tell me,
Mr.
Sarah,
Briette may back out of the deal.
Well, he has
30 days.
with 30 days from opening or
Yeah,
or
30 days to purchase and
to
pick up.
purchase. Well,
Or we take-
pickup may be something that he works out with Mac for the spring, depending
Oh,
on
right, yeah.
location and everything, but
Right. Yeah. 'cause
30 days for payment,
they
if you could
didn't
let him
really-
know that.
They didn't have a lot of information with it. They just went and looked.
Yeah, it was, I think it was
Mark has
in,
the book for it.
No, but them, as far as they didn't get to talk to anybody, nobody
Right.
talked to anybody, he just saw what was there.
yeah,
Okay.
He asked me a couple things and I said, I don't
It-
know.
did say as is in the thing. Okay, I just want to make sure we're not. Okay. Can you,
I can't remember what he was asking.
Can
about.
you-
He said, I assume they have those.
I'm not
already,
sure where we would put these.
but I don't know what the power was.
They
Lower
were,
bids.
they're just, yeah, they're 2 other bids that,
Pins, that's what it was,
Okay.
pins,
Mark has it.
okay.
thank you. There's that, we can cross off the list. Set future agenda, I think is redundant because we're back here on Wednesday for a budget meeting,
This Wednesday?
Huh?
next Wednesday, the
Next
19th. Sorry, I forget today's Tuesday. Feels like Friday to me.
I think we're doing okay on the budget, and we've got
The next regular school board meeting, though, will be
20.
Next regular, yeah, the 24th. If they've had that meeting,
They should
the
be-
way I understand it is Matt is going to send me an email
Right.
with
There's a
their,
possibility they could be having some information by the 24th, but there's nothing set in stone with it.
and maybe what I'll ask of Matt is that he have Todd come, because Todd does a really good job of explaining stuff so that I can understand what he's talking about, so
Yeah, they were really, even Bill Early.
Yep, they do a really good job of explaining that stuff. I agree. Nothing else in there is, nope.
Well, you can tell them, but they're wrong. And what Cambridge has to offer
What do you mean?
In what way?
Who?
Karen?
in the conversation that was brought to me.
Oh, yes, I
A
agree.
lot of the information wasn't correct.
Thank you.
Right. And hopefully by then we'll know what, if
Well,
Munisburg's gonna
yeah,
take
if
our
we're gonna-
offer
Yeah.
and Munisburg's gonna be done.
If we're gonna take Enosburg for the next year, and they're gonna negotiate with Cambridge for the next year over how this should happen, we should have answers to those questions.
Yeah, like I said, we're 10 months out now from having that discussion. Next year, later this year,
Mhm.
October.
And Todd even said he wanted to start this discussion in May.
Yeah,
And,
which concerns me a little bit,
yeah,
that there was
Munisburg
no,
just
yeah,
wouldn't
there was.
do it.
They've always done it at the last minute.
Yeah, let's stop doing that.
No, I mean, not select board, Enosburg has always done the last minute. They've,
Here's
Are you looking for
I-
a motion to adjourn?
I
Mr.
have
Chair?
nothing else on the agenda.
You wanna check if Linda has anything else?
No.
No.
Linda, do you have anything to say?
she back on? Yep, she is.
He came back on to hear the question.
That would be a no.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a
Mr.
good one,
Chairman.
Linda.
We have a
You
motion.
too.
We need a second.
Second?
We have a second. All those in favor of adjournment? Lance?
Aye.
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 Have a good night.
Thanks.